Well, it's 5:45 p.m., which means it's time for BC TV's Nightly News Roundup. I'm Roland Boyden, alongside Joe Bushy here. This is 5:45 Live. Joe, let's take a look at what's coming up on deck tonight. We'll start with our Vermont State Police report, where a local woman has gone missing. More details on that. Today's big news on what Shumlin's calling the vet home disaster when he spoke at a press conference held just hours earlier. And, of course, Basic had that big skate park meeting last night. Plenty of good footage from that. Remember, we do it all in 15 minutes. It's the weekend, so maybe we can get you out just a little bit early. Enjoy what turned into a little bit of a rainy Friday. But anyway, stick with us right here on 5:45 Live. Welcome back to this September 28th, 2012 edition of 5:45 Live. I'm Roland Boyden alongside Joe Bushy. We'll be taking you through the next 15 minutes into the regularly scheduled 6 o'clock news. Jam-packed show today. We're going to try and pack it all in here. That's footage from the soon-to-be-released indie flick out of Oakland entitled Rush Sour and scored by none other than local Free as Art founder and subsequent BCTV volunteer Jackson Emmer. All right. Joe, I want to get right into the stories as it's a busy Friday for us here. We'll even get a weather report on what's turning out to be not quite the Friday, beautiful, gorgeous Friday I was hoping for, but we'll get that weather report from VUHS TV in a little bit too. But Joe,
tomorrow will be a little bit nicer.
You have your ties with Basic. They had a big meeting last night. Really, the focus on design. Some were expecting a different focus. Yep. Kind of turned out the way people were hoping. I've got a somewhat inflammatory script here for you, but why don't you give it a go, and then we'll take a look at the footage here.
All right. Well, local media outlets may have been salivating for another dose of the heated controversy that has come to follow the Brattleboro Skate Park, but to no avail on Thursday night. Local residents in opposition to the park took to the message that last night's public meeting, hosted by Basic, was to discuss and offer community input on the park's design.
That's right. At the meeting, which packed the Brattleboro Senior Center, Mike McIntyre of the design group firm ASD Stantic, now in charge of the project, told local residents just what he was hoping to get from the community.
We're going to really focus on a kind of building a community consensus for the skate park design for those that intend to use the facility. What's important to the skate park, so that we really know what you guys want, what you don't want, what amenities we can put in, and then most importantly for general park users, other amenities, whether it's trash cans, drinking fountains, visual screening, whatnot. So it's not really a consensus where, here's the design today. It's more or less getting your feedback on what you'd like to see in the design.
Last night's Brattleboro Area Skate Park is Coming design meeting, talking about the skate park. That'll show in its entirety next week on BCTV Channel 8 with ASL interpretation even. All right, Joe, we round up all the stories and all the local media outlets. Let's start with The Reformer, where we just do a quick summary. If you want more, you got to flesh it out by going yourself to reformer.com. All right,
we'll start.
Roundup.
Hang on.
We're good.
We're going to start with the announcement from VPR that the construction of a full-size studio in the Marlborough College Graduate Center in downtown will yield an Election Day grand opening this year. And as the Vermont VY saga continues, now in the Second Circuit, over Vermont's overruled Act 160 legislation, which would close the plant on the state's authority should it be revised, the operative word from Entergy is implausible. After the state's request to expedite oral arguments following a 1:30 gap before briefs were filed by the Attorney General, VA.
There you go. Just a summary of those stories. Speaking of the brief filed by the Vermont Attorney General in this ongoing case, we caught up with him earlier when they had just decided to make this filing.
I think this is going to be a really long fight, but for any number of reasons relating to Vermont Yankee and to other matters that are impacted by Judge Murtha's decision, it's an important case for us to appeal. And long fight, okay, important issues, and we're going to do this fight.
This morning, the feds reversed their decision to terminate the entirety of their funding for the Vermont Veterans Home, which would have stripped the home of half its $20 million annual budget. The Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services pulled the funds after an investigation found staff in violation of several federal stipulations, violations they now say are on their way to being completely cleared up. At a press conference held just hours earlier, Governor Shumlin publicly apologized for the misstep with a speech, Joe, that I think really was just him more or less saying, whew, yeah.
We all know the controversy that has ensued. Had we been denied our CMS funding, it would have been a $10 million disaster for Vermont taxpayers on an annual basis. My Secretary of Administration, my team has been on the ground working together with the local community to try right what was wrong and get back on a better foot.
Governor Shumlin speaking at a press conference earlier today as he addressed the state's need to care for its veterans. Earlier this month, we spoke with the medical director of the Brattleboro VA's community-based outpatient care program, Dr. Richard Orland, about the local residents who warrant their care.
The new VA, I think, has really recognized its responsibility and cares for and will offer care to anyone who served our country or is affiliated with someone that did as appropriate to their discharge condition.
Brattleboro VA's medical director for community-based outpatient care, Dr. Richard Orland. You can see that full interview at 7:30 p.m. tonight on right here on BCTV Channel 8. And I'll turn it back to you, Joe, for our next story.
Alrighty, next, FEMA has awarded the Brattleboro Housing Authority $290,000 following the damage sustained by their Melrose Terrace property in West Brattleboro during Hurricane Irene. At a meeting held earlier this month, BHA board members explained their focus on redeveloping the current properties already in their possession.
One of the heaviest weighted items is ownership. You know, is your ability to secure a piece of land, and the fact that we have 3 housing authority owned parcels really rose those 3 parcels to the top. It's just natural that it does.
All right, we'll move on with our latest edition here, Joe, our Vermont State Police Report, VSP Report, getting all the latest feeds from our contact up there, Stephanie Desario. Let's jump right into it here, Joe, and for that, we're going to do a trip back into the newsroom. Let's get the sweet animation going here, see if we can do that.
Get it?
There we go.
All right, State Police also announced yesterday that the state of Vermont is accepting applications from cities, towns, and certain nonprofits for funding under the Federal Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, otherwise known as HMGP. The program awards money to municipalities to fix public infrastructure, buy out homes and businesses, and other projects that will help mitigate the human and monetary cost of future disasters. 75% from them need a 25% match. Next, the VSP today issued a missing persons report for 34-year-old South Royalton resident Holly M. Peters, listed officially as a Caucasian female at 5 feet tall, 135 pounds with brown hair and eyes. Here's the quote from the report. Holly has a history of mental health issues and has gone missing before, but never more than 24 hours. Holly was reportedly upset about being told by her landlord that she had to give up her pets. Family members in Montpelier and friends in Londonderry have not had contact with Holly since September 26, 2012. Holly left her cell phone and animals behind with a note to bring them to a shelter. Holly did not take extra clothing.
There you go. That's our VSP Vermont State Police Report. A few more things before we wrap up. Of course, talking about a missing woman and a tragedy there. That'll segue us into our next story. Another disappearance of a young woman in the state has now prompted a Discovery Channel special on their show Disappeared. The hour-long piece focuses on the story of Brianna Maitland, who vanished from her northern Vermont town in 2004.
Beautiful 17-year-old Brianna Maitland is restless in her remote northern Vermont hometown. One night, she vanishes after work, but family and friends don't find out for days.
My mind was like, find her right now.
Soon, it becomes alarmingly clear Brianna is not a runaway.
I saw a picture of the car, and I thought I was going to lose it.
All this amidst a rural drug epidemic.
We're in upstate Vermont, and not a lot for the young kids to do.
Next, local UVM attendee Trevor Gaines has this week been inducted into the Vermont Athletics Hall of Fame. Gaines, whose breakout skill brought UVM into NCAA contention between 2000 and 2002, was praised highly by his former coach, who caught up with the cameras following the induction ceremony.
He just had those qualities, a lot of intangible qualities that of leadership, of character, and of class and dignity that just people want to follow.
All right, we'll move on, Joe, and jump into our weather report. Of course, you can see the rain coming down behind us. BUHS-TV, Brattleboro's morning news advisory program, likes to do their own weather report. They've got their green screen up there. We like to snip in a piece of that. Let's take a look.
Today is mostly cloudy, and it's a high of 74 and a low of 49. On Saturday is a high of 78 and a low of 55, and on Sunday is a high of 67 and a low of 41. Looks like we're going to have a storm on Saturday. You better get your rain gear out. Now, it's back to the desk.
All right, a few notes before we wrap. I'd like to personally invite you to BCTV's annual meeting. It's this coming Wednesday, October 3rd at 6 p.m. at the Brattleboro Museum and Art Center. All are welcome. Free to attend, some great free food, and Joe, describing it as anything below epic would be not doing it justice. I've been working for weeks and weeks culling together footage of just about everything local that's been produced here at BCTV. We'll put it into an epic, use that word again, clip.
And I can tell you that from experience, Roland's year in review is something to behold. If I'm not mistaken, last year's won a national award.
That might be true.
So
we'll
talk about that later.
We'll have that for you in addition to the food, and we'll do a series of awards as well. Also, the now nationally recognized talk show host David Packman will be the speaker, talking about his origins in community media and rise to fame in the free speech TV realm. All right, Joe, let's wrap up these notes so we can get on out of here for the weekend.
All right. Well, coming up, VPR's annual listener picnic is this Saturday, September 29th at 11 a.m. at Vabex 8 University Way. That's out on Old Guilford Road, for those of you that don't know where it is, close to where I live. And they'll have a tent set up if it's raining, and they'll have plenty of good food. It'll be a great time. There'll be music. Features special guest Len Rosetto Casper, host of the Splendid Table on VPR.
Don't forget about that 7:30 full broadcast tonight, 7:30 p.m. on Channel 8 of that Brattleboro VA Richard Orland interview. It's half hour. It breaks down a lot of the new things they're doing at the VA. There's also a program from longtime BCTV producer Maria Dominguez called Trees, an evening of poetry and dance, which was a performance, dance performance at the Brattleboro Museum and Art Center. That shows at 10:30 p.m. tonight, also on BCTV Channel 8. That's a full edit, everybody. Thanks for checking in with us. That's right. It's a big weekend for the Pats, down to 1-2.
Brattleboro football game tonight at St. Johnsbury.
Indeed.
Yeah.
WTSA
Tailgate party was canceled, I think, but because of the weather.
It'll be live on WTSA with announcers Tim Johnson and Bill Holliday. All right, that's all I got to say, Joe. So let's close this one out. Good night, everybody.
See you next week.